In the year 2007, Call of Duty 4 came out to much fanfare. It completely reinvented the way that we play multiplayer in today's day and age. It introduced a system of levels and perks to the genre, and like it or not, this single game defined a generation of consoles. But did it also reflect the social trends of the time? I'm Sean Tango, and this is Seantology. Today, the console shooter is the most popular form of multiplayer game, and Call of Duty is at the forefront of that genre. Since 2007, you can't really say shooter without thinking of Call of Duty. We've all experienced it, and we've all enjoyed at least one entry into the series. For most of us, that's Call of Duty 4, the game that redefined multiplayer. It was fast, accessible, and rewarding. Call of Duty 4 offered a sharp contrast to its major competitor at the time, Halo 3. These two shooters, though very popular in their own right, were on entirely different ends of the spectrum. They utilized very different mechanics to create entirely different experiences. But I'll speak more on mechanics a little bit later. 2007 was a tumultuous year for video games, creating some of the biggest successes of the generation. Call of Duty reigned supreme amongst those as a massively successful franchise. Yet, as it stands, 2007 was also a tumultuous year for politics in America. 2007 was the year that began the rise of the modern libertarian. This new conservative movement, typified by politicians like Ron Paul, really began to pick up momentum that year. Paul in particular was considered an internet candidate by many, being popular amongst young voters. His campaign revolved around personal freedoms and liberty, stemming from Objectivism and Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, a Russian-American writer and philosopher, thought that the most moral thing that a human being could do was seek their own happiness. This was known as Objectivism. Essentially, it was to place yourself above everything else. Ayn Rand felt that this sort of collective self-interest would lead to a productive society. So what does all this have to do with Call of Duty? Well, that's where the mechanics come in. Call of Duty 4's most revolutionary aspects came from its multiplayer. Call of Duty 4 introduced levels and experience to the shooter genre. Whenever you accomplish something in multiplayer, you were rewarded for your actions, win or loss. Kill someone, plus 10. Assist in a kill, plus 2. This played into their level system. Like an RPG, the more experience you gained, the more you leveled up. The more you leveled up, the more things you would unlock for yourself. Things like perks and guns and all manner of benefits. The higher your level, the more options you had available to you at any time. These systems were a sharp contrast to the other shooter that was popular at the time, Halo. In Halo, you were rewarded for winning, punished for losing, and going into a game, you could guarantee that everyone was on an even keel, because everyone started with the same loadout. With these features, Halo greatly benefited teamwork. Call of Duty, however, did not. While some situations benefited teamwork, a smart player, concerned only with leveling themselves, could act as a lone wolf. They'd employ tactics that wouldn't always benefit the team. This led to a divergent player base. There were always a few players that worked together, but they weren't always at the top of the leaderboards, unless of course they too were employing objectivist tactics. The mechanics of the game made it more beneficial for players to work for themselves, rather than for the benefit of the group, whereas a Halo player would only benefit if they were cooperating. All of these things were detrimental to many other players' experiences. But if we were to apply objectivist theory, this was inconsequential to the player who was employing these tactics. The player was morally sound because they were seeking their own happiness. Am I saying that Call of Duty is responsible for the rise of libertarianism? Not at all. Nor am I saying is it the other way around. What I am saying, however, is that something within the zeitgeist of the time made objectivism a popular concept. We can see similarities in the philosophy of objectivism and libertarianism, as well as the design philosophy of Call of Duty 4 and the rest of the franchise. There's a correlation that begins to emerge in the time period with which both of these rose to prominence. With this bridge established, it might be interesting to view how Call of Duty and objectivism has affected players now.